And now we have right here in the studio the Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Dr. Tayo Adeloju, to tell us what they are doing about it. After all, they are the helm of affairs, talking to all the big guys when it comes to the economy. Dr. Adeloju, good afternoon. Good to have you in the studio.
Good afternoon. Great to be here, and well done for always doing fantastic coverage of very complex issues in Africa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the conversation in Nigeria now is that we see good macroeconomic data, but the microeconomic data, the one that measures poverty, is still there. The one that measures cost of living is still not very good at all. And so some people have told us, Nigerians, hey, be calm. It's the gap. It's time that will bring it to pass. But I beg to ask this question. If we do nothing and wait for time to close this gap, would we see it actually, the gains from the macro going to the micro?
So I think that the audience has just been shown across Africa that all of us are going through what I like to call the war to the wallet shock transmissions, right? So the combination of the U.S. conflict in the Gulf, Iran constraints in the Strait of Hormuz, the global shock from that across many channels. You saw Zambia, Kenya is showing across import prices, shipping costs, imported goods, fertilizer, energy crisis, fertilizer and inputs into the food crisis. So all of us in Africa are seeing the war to wallet transmission. Now, if your war-to-wallet transmission met you with a stronger set of macroeconomic fundamentals, you do a little bit better. If your war-to-wallet transmission from the global shocks arrive in your country and you were not doing better on the macro, you do worse. And so you're seeing, that's the pressure you're seeing in Kenya and in some of the parts of Africa. The small respite we are getting today is that the reforms we executed 36 months ago, thereabout, created a stronger macroeconomic stability. So we are not at risk today in terms of a balance of payments crisis. However, that's 36 months ago action, and the global shocks will test that going into the next 12 to 24 months. So Nigeria does not have today what you might call a macro stability challenge. We have a conversion challenge, right? How do you convert that macro stability you now have gained into productive jobs, into sectors that can grow faster than the population growth rate, into gross output productivity, especially in sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and how can you attract investments to drive that growth, right? Those are the questions, the conversion problems are the questions where it matters the most. And you're going to drive expansion in your industry at a time where the government is discussing, make more in Nigeria to reduce the import bill. Where will the energy come from? So the conversion reforms are the key. Conversion reforms from stability to accelerating growth points to the work that now needs to be done. Yeah, we've already won on that. The macro dance is over, right? It was done months ago. It has had its effect. If you want to sustain that growth and increase it, we now need to shift to conversion reforms, because conversion reforms is what converts your macro into firm performance, into market performance, into wallet performance that Nigerians can feel. So you remember that before these reforms happened, we had the depreciation in income. So minimum wage was what, 30,000 naira, but what Nigerians were feeling in their wallet was 19,000 naira. I dare to say that if you do depreciation plus cumulative inflation on the current higher minimum wage, we will see the same effect. And that's why the wallet is not feeling the growth, right? You still need to tackle inflation, you still need to tackle the cost of doing business, and you still need to remove the constraints on productivity. And that is harder work, because that's not national balance sheet, macro level work. That work happens at the points of the constraints. So constraint one, power. and electricity. How do you power growth when the grid is, the grid has given us
its own level of shock.
Its own level of so
exactly.
Grid shock.
Grid shock, exactly.
So you have a consistent systemic grid shock that does not allow you to power growth
and productivity.
That's one. Two, the other part of energy is the supply of the fuels, right? We are doing better than we've historically done, but lower than our capacity, right? 2.2 million barrels a day is the threshold that allows us the comfort level, to refine locally and export in a way where you're not substituting one for the other.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Dr. Adeloju, we're still importing crude.
Yes.
But I will not distract your line of thought. I just thought I should just...
Which is because we're not punching in our weight class on oil production, daily oil production still, right? So that is something that still needs to change, because you need to produce enough to refine locally and still export crude,
Correct.
right? And right now, the numbers are not yet there at all. And so it's better than before, but not as strong as it needs to be.
Correct.
Okay, so energy security is still a big issue. And without solving energy security, you cannot power growth. So that's number one. Number two is jobs. Well, jobs will come from growth, right? And growth will come from investments. And if you looked at the investment numbers, we're still not pulling our weight in terms of the size of FDI onboarding into Nigeria. And that's because there's not enough of investment-grade projects that are as competitive as our peers. Money in Africa is not looking for Nigeria. Money comes into Africa and looks for the best place to go. And so you have to ask yourself, if you're an investor, you want to put your top dollar somewhere, is the best place to go our FDI projects. So building more competitive FDI projects is a key place to go if you want to really see those growth happen. Then, of course, one of the things the government has won on is this government has done this first line charge on the federation revenues going straight to the subnationals. So subnationals typically are consistently hitting high numbers in terms of federal allocation, but how that allocation is transmitting to productive sectors that drive growth is also important. We need to see productive expansion plans on the subnationals, and that's something to think about. Nigeria
and that's one of the things you'll be discussing at your summit.
Absolutely. So, the summit this year is 26th to 27th of October, and we've tagged it Growth That Works. Of course, because there's a big debate in Nigeria whether the growth is working or not. So, okay, fine. All of us need to get together and have a consensus on growth that works, right? So even if you disagree that there's growth, come and discuss growth. If you agree there's growth,
come and make it work.
Come and make it work. Okay. So either way, there's a consensus that growth that works for all of us has not yet been achieved, and we need to have a conversation about that. And how do you use that growth to deliver jobs, to deliver productivity, and to deliver shared prosperity? So we're discussing growth with depth, right? So the growth has to have diversification, of course, because the more diversified we are, the more...
I like the way you said with depth, and you demonstrate, you felt...
Yeah, because you can grow in a lean way, where it's not enough to lift people out of poverty, it's not enough to create enough jobs to absorb our dynamic population into productive work. But growth with depth means that it's diversified growth, it's export growth, because of course, if you import all you consume, then you're exporting all your jobs, right?
Then your currency even feels the pressure.
Absolutely. Then the pressure on your reserves is high. But if you're exporting more, then your reserves are feeling, the dollar dropping. And then productivity, technology scaling. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. It's AI, robotics. So how does that all come together? And then, of course, the human well-being.
Dr. Adeloju will be at your summit.
So those are the things we're chasing.
So
come to the summit. We're discussing invest in Nigeria, work Nigeria, produce Nigeria, skill Nigeria, subnationally, and secure Nigeria.
All right. You've made it interesting enough. I trust that a lot of people will be there, but I know we'll discuss it more even before October 26th. Chief Executive Officer of NESG, that's the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Dr. Tayo Adeloju. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And wish you the best as you prepare
and you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Okay.